Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Race and Lanes podcast. I'm your host, Rico. I'm saying good morning because we're pre-recording today. So we are doing the show on a Sunday. You guys will be getting it on Tuesday. If you guys would do us a huge favor before we get started, if you would please like, share, and subscribe to the show. It really helps us get out into the YouTube algorithm. It doesn't cost you a thing. There's a little button somewhere. I think maybe down there. You can click that button to subscribe if you know anyone that may find this information useful or entertaining. By all means, share the show with them as well.
And with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get the show underway. I want to welcome in my co-host, Mr. Chuck Snow. Good morning, Chuck. How are you?
Good morning, Rico. I'm doing well. How are you, buddy?
Doing great. I'm excited. I didn't say who our guest was just yet. I'm excited to get him back on the show because it's definitely be interested since the last time that we did have him on the show to find out what's going on in the used truck market.
Yeah, it should be interesting. And Ray has some. Yeah.
So we're teasing it a little bit. We're teasing who we got back on the show with us. So you want to go ahead and introduce our guest for today, Chuck?
Well, with no further ado, we're going to bring on Ray Veeneman, who is the Vice President of Remarketing for Rush Truck Centers of Canada. If there's a guy that knows about truck sales, used and new, it's Ray Veeneman. He's been doing it, I hate to say it, Ray, you've been doing it longer than almost everybody else. Welcome to the show.
I think I'm supposed to say thank you, but I don't know about that now.
Well, I'm not commenting on your age. You started very young. I'm commenting on your experience.
Well, I appreciate that, and you know, it's been a wonderful career. I can't say anything bad about it.
It's got to be how long? It's well over 30 years, isn't it?
Yeah, so I think I started with Mack Truck back in 1994.
Okay.
I took a small hiatus in between there, but yeah, it's been a long time.
So it's been 31 years.
Yeah, correct.
Well, good on you. Obviously, you have seen a whole lot of changes in the industry, and they keep coming. Ray, I just want to commend you for the stand you took, which most people in your position as a sales executive never would have. But the stand you took because you decided to do the right thing and speak up against Driver Inc., which is our American friends don't quite understand what we're dealing with here up in Canada. And I'll fill them in really quickly, the Reader's Digest version. We've talked about it on the show before. Up in Canada, we have really strict laws. If you are an employee of a company, you need to be treated as an employee of a company. That means that you need to be covered with workman's safety insurance, Canada pension, unemployment insurance, and a myriad of, in some cases, even health insurance, depending on the province. And what some unscrupulous operators have been doing in Canada is they tell their drivers, which I believe might be legal in the US, but it is not in Canada. What some unscrupulous companies have been doing is telling their drivers to go out and incorporate, become a limited company or an incorporation or even an LLC in the States is very similar. And the company would pay them as a outside provider. And it does not work. It doesn't pass the sniff test. And unfortunately, our federal government is terrified of starting up with the trucking industry, especially certain groups within the trucking industry. So they are allowing people to break the law. But there are an awful lot of law-abiding companies that don't want any part of this because they don't want to jeopardize themselves or their customers if a driver gets into a crash and hurts himself badly or kills himself, because everybody could be liable then. And Ray, you boldly stood up and took a stand against this Driver Inc. And I just want to commend you on that. Thank you so much for on behalf of everybody that appreciates what you're doing.
Thank you, Chuck. I appreciate that. I if nothing else, I'm a firm believer in the law and rules and supporting Canada. And I just think stuff like that is very important. And I'll continue to do that. And hopefully it'll be positive for everybody.
I certainly hope so, because what we need in trucking on both sides of the border, everybody needs to play on a level playing field. It's not right that some people circumvent laws. They're not even circumventing, they are breaking laws that other people are, just because they're doing things the right way, are obeying. And it's not right because, in the end, the drivers themselves are put in peril. Number one, if the company goes under, there's no protection for them. Number two, if they have a really bad crash, some of them are buying private insurance. The private insurance is good for contractors. Now, the three of us know very well how insurance companies work. If there's a loophole to get out of it, they will get out of it, because that's how insurance companies make their money. When you buy insurance as a private contractor and you need to use that insurance, and the insurance company finds out that you're not a private contractor,
Right.
your insurance is null and void. So now you've got two broken legs, you have no way of feeding your family, and the insurance you bought, you couldn't blow your nose with.
Well, yeah, it is unfortunate. And, taking all that aside, just the tax implications, which, our country needs if we are giving away all the assistance that we are, and just to, adhere to the laws. I mean, that's a big part of it for me. And I just think it's so important. As you mentioned earlier, I've been in business over 31 years, seeing companies like Trafix, like XTL, like Kriska and Apps, and all of those companies that I kind of grew up with, that I know, Challenger, Motor Freight, all of those doing the right thing, to my knowledge, and now trying to compete against the people that are not. It's just not, that level playing field that you talked about. And I'm not speaking on their behalf, because I don't know how they feel about it, but I just don't think it's the right thing.
I agree. Breaking the law and not providing your people with the amount of protection that the law says you have to provide them isn't legal. So, I'd be interested to hear from Rico. Rico, what's the law in the United States where you live?
It's very similar, but you still have a lot of people that they call it 1099, and the driver has basically, it's kind of the same deal. They have no kind of protection or anything like that. They don't own the equipment. They are not purchasing the fuel, but a lot of smaller guys like myself that buy 2 or 3 trucks, 3, 4, 5 trucks, will hire drivers and pay them 1099, where they'll say give the driver 20% of whatever the truck grosses or something like that. But they don't have, like Ray was saying, when it comes time to file taxes, they don't have any legitimate expenses to write off, because you're not buying fuel, you're not paying for repairs, all of that type of stuff. And so all of the money that you quote unquote have made is supposed to be treated as taxable income, and you don't have anything to really justify and offset that income. So the IRS views it similarly here. It's definitely not legal. It shouldn't be something that you shouldn't be practicing, but it definitely goes on a lot more than it should be.
So in the United States, if you had a driver on a 1099, would you get prosecuted because it's not legal and he should have been on your payroll?
I mean, you're getting a slap on the wrist from what I understand. It's not really nothing there that has any teeth to it.
Okay.
Which is why people still do it. Which is, it's a very popular. Matter of fact, when I was looking to hire drivers, you run into people that would prefer, because of course they would be seeing, as the driver, they would be seeing in their pocket a little bit more money that they would bring home.
Right.
But at the end of the day, they, like you said, they're not paying any unemployment insurance. They don't have any kind of coverages when that comes down. No type of benefits, no employee benefits whatsoever. It's just a straight cash deal, and for them, they're looking at, okay, well, I'm bringing home more money on the bottom line, but you're not filing taxes. A lot of times these people aren't filing taxes as well. So
And that's the problem.
Right.
Yes, I have to tell you, back when I was at Traffics, and I left right during the heyday, and I was offering company drivers $1 a mile to drive our trucks.
That's good money.
That's really good money, and the guy does about 100 and let's say 100 on the very low end to about 120,000 miles a year. So these guys were offered $100 to $120,000 a year. And what happened was, I remember getting phone calls from guys saying, well, you're paying $1 a mile. Will you pay me as a company? I go, no, I won't pay you as a company. You're going to come on and I will pay the burden tax, all the burden costs, the unemployment, everything else. And they said, no, it's okay. I'd rather work for 60 cents a mile as my own company because I don't pay income tax. And I heard that several times. None of these drivers are paying income tax, zero. So they're getting that 60. And there's a really clear law in Canada where you have to file, everybody has to file tax and pay their tax. Doesn't matter who you are. The richest and the poorest, we all have to.
Yeah. And Ray, I don't know. I want to shift gears too quickly on you, Chuck. But I was curious as to. I think the last time that we had Ray on, we were just talking about the whole thing wasn't maybe set in stone with the quote unquote tariffs or whatever. I'm interested to hear from Ray how that whole thing is going to be affecting things going down the road when it comes to truck sales and even new truck sales and used truck sales.
Absolutely. So it is affecting business here. Having said that, we've had a pretty good first half year. I want to say selling our current inventory, our on the ground inventory.
Right.
As far as the tariffs, I've heard of guys trying to export trucks to the U.S. or people from the U.S. trying to import trucks.
Right.
Definitely are affected by a tariff. We actually have a truck in the U.S. right now that's at a bodybuilder's that normally would be imported by the truck manufacturer to Canada and looks after the duties and stuff. And excuse me, because it stopped in the U.S. first, bringing it over to Canada, we're going to be responsible for a tariff. Depending on the type of truck, where it was manufactured, the tariffs are certainly being imposed. So it does make an interesting way to do business now, and people are certainly looking at that and more reluctant. I would say I was on a call yesterday, the day before, it would have been Friday, and they were talking about, excuse me, how municipalities are balking at any tariffs that are imposed because of the contracts beforehand that were signed beforehand. But, most dealerships, especially since COVID, Rico, have put in conditions in the sales agreement, the retail sales agreement, or, a bill of sale, invoice, whatever you want to call it at, that there's a section that says if this tariff comes in case of infectious disease or surcharges, whatever, there is that in there. And people either have or have not read it, but there is a clause in there. Now, whether they end up taking delivery and whether they get their deposit back may be another question. But it is definitely affecting the sale of new and used trucks alike.
Right. So I'm curious to know, just from because you're boots on the ground and you're right there in the trenches and you see this information about how much. I guess I don't know if could put a dollar amount to it, but percentage wise, how much is that affecting the price of a new vehicle one and a used vehicle two.
So yeah, I've actually just put out a call on Friday to get a list of what trucks are exposed to the tariff and
Right.
to what percentage rate. And of course, it's going to depend on the value and where it comes from and what bodies are put on it. For us, is new trucks, international. For those that don't know, international that is now known as international. So
Yeah.
that name was officially changed again. I'm going to say it was either in the fall or in the spring of this year, fall of last year, spring of this year. So international has a few months ago sent a letter, and they've raised the price of truck to hopefully accommodate whatever tariffs that are imposed or going to be imposed. So that is affecting all the new truck purchases. And we've heard similar for other brands as well, that they're doing the same thing. So at this point, it's a price increase that's hopefully going to cover all the tariffs that are imposed.
But do you ballpark percentage wise? Do you know where that might be, or just?
I'm hearing different on new trucks. I'm hearing different numbers between $7,000 and $10,000. But Rico, please don't quote me. And as the audience, the listening audience, I don't know exactly what that is. And it seems to, and unfortunately, as you may see, that the governments are still negotiating that, and it's one day on, one day off, and maybe not totally off, but so we're all just I would have to say there's a cushion imposed on the new purchases and the used to hopefully accommodate anything that's going to solidify. But at this point, I believe it's $7,000 to $10,000.
And not to get we generally try to stay away from politics and everything here on the show, and by any means, I'm not trying to put anybody in the box on that one, but when President Trump came in, he was saying, when he was talking about all these tariffs and everything, that we're going to get the other countries to pay for it. But actually, those tariffs are actually being passed directly on to the consumer.
Yes,
they absolutely are, and even it's affected dealerships in the U.S. the same. So everybody's paying, and you're right. We won't get into politics, but we all voted for somebody that we wanted something to be done. And, I think it's a great thing that everybody, we're getting what we voted for, and how we handle that and deal with it is another thing. But I think, I hope that everybody in those positions is doing what's best for their country. And I think that's what everybody's intentions are. And hopefully it works out that way.
So my next question would be, how much, because it is what it is now. That's way above our pay grade here on this level. But how much of that has really affected business when it comes to, because, we talked about people maybe looking at Canada as an option to buy because of the currency exchange. You get a little bit of better buying power from the United States aspect if you bought the truck from Canada and brought it down. How much is that affecting business?
It is affecting business, not maybe in the way of sales that you're referring to. I think the overall cross-border trucking has somewhat changed because of the tariff. There's maybe not as much stuff going to the U.S. and vice versa. I'm hearing that a lot in the produce business.
Yep.
So having said that, so now the demand for trucks to perform that work is declined or diminished slightly. So that creates a lesser demand. So, the prices all come down accordingly. And I don't know if I'm articulating that properly, but with less vehicles going to the U.S., less demand for vehicles, so that affects inventory and pricing as well.
Right.
Now, Ray, I'm under the understanding, I went to ship a truck, inquire about shipping a truck that I own. It's an older truck. And the custom broker said, you're going to have to pay a 25% duty to ship it to the U.S. And I said, well, I just imported it from the US. And she said, if you've got proof that you've imported it within the last 3 years, you're exempt. So are you finding that as well? If you take a 2.5-year-old truck, I don't know if you get them that new on your lot, and if you're shipping it to the US, because you did import it. If you can prove that you imported it from the US to Canada, you can export it back to the US duty free.
So I haven't had that experience yet, Chuck, and I mean I'm happy to check into that for you next week, or I guess tomorrow's next week already. I'm happy to do that to confirm, but I haven't honestly. My demand for sending stuff now, I'm sure there's other dealers. We've really enjoyed a great local customer base that's really been demanding a lot of our used inventory. So I have done a lot less exporting over the last couple years. Excuse me. So, but I'm happy to check into that. I am exporting some here in the next 2 weeks, but that in particular, I'm happy to check into for you.
Okay, just wondering. I heard something on Friday on the Road Dog Radio, and they were talking about new truck sales all of a sudden going up. Have you heard in the US? Have you heard? I was very surprised. What have you heard about that?
So I think the demand, it's funny. On the ground trucks, yes, because those aren't affected perhaps by any tariffs or upcharges. So they're still sitting at the original invoice cost.
Right.
But it's funny. I was just in Western Canada last week, and I took a drive. I was there on holidays, but as always, I take my obligatory drive around to all the dealerships to see what inventory is out there and see what our competition is doing. And I can tell you, there's a lot of trucks on the ground right now.
Oh yeah.
So I'm hearing, and Ritchie Brother Auctions just had their sale on July 15th, 16th, and 17th here in Ontario.
Right.
And highway tractors, in my opinion, seem to be a little bit down. Sleepers, I mean. Good low mileage sleepers were okay. But what we're finding here is, and maybe the demand in the US is good right now. Here in Ontario, I would say generally across Canada, we're seeing people experiencing trouble getting vehicles financed.
Yeah.
There are finance companies that have got right out or getting right out of the trucking industry, and I don't blame them right now. I would like to talk to a few of the finance companies and help them through this, because I think they need help, and they need help with someone that's honest, someone that understands the industry,
Yes.
and can help them, guide them through the disposal of the current inventory that they have, but understand going forward how to better check the specs of a truck before they finance them.
Right.
But financing certainly is an issue for our customers right now.
Oh, it's huge.
How much of an issue, just curious, when you say that, you kind of threw my antenna up, how much of that is due to the fallout from the whole Pride situation?
Well, I think a lot of that is, and unfortunately, you know what, unfortunately or fortunately, it was a good, greed has a way of taking over. And, and I've been in this business so long, and because in those types of jobs, people change and get promoted very quickly.
Right.
So history is forgotten very quickly.
Oh, yeah.
So they get in and get out of the business quickly. They finance really strong for a couple of years, then they go, oh crap, we shouldn't have done that, and they get out, or they move, or people have moved. So that Pride, business has created a lot of worry, has created a lot of education.
Put a bad taste in a lot of people's mouth.
Absolutely.
Yeah, when that happened, the banks, all of a sudden, the banks were being very, very lenient with trucking companies, only for the reason that they didn't want to repossess those trucks because they didn't want to try to sell these used trucks. But after that pride thing went down, they had to have a change of heart, and they figured, you know what, let's get this bad debt off our balance sheet. All we're doing now is we're letting these customers run these trucks. We're not collecting any money. The trucks are getting miled out. They're getting beaten up. I don't think these people are maintaining them up to the standards that they're supposed to. Let's just get our trucks back and we'll deal with it. So are you seeing a lot of those repos on your lot, or are they all ending up at the auction?
So a lot have gone to the auction. There is a couple local private truck dealerships that have, for some reason or somehow, partnered with the finance companies and are selling a lot of those trucks. Again, I don't understand why the finance companies are why they're choosing the people they are and the dealerships they are, but they are, and so they're focused mainly on selling a lot of the finance company repos.
Yeah, I heard of one last week where it's a fuel company, it's a factoring company, and now they've gotten into truck financing, and they're cross collateralizing everything. So they're giving these guys a package, and it sounds almost like the never, never plan. Like they've got these guys by the short and curlies really working for them.
It's absolutely true. Yeah.
So, that's a huge issue. And I'm guessing some of this uptick that we are seeing, that I heard about, I was just trying to figure it out. Why would people be buying new trucks in this market? But I'm guessing if you're sitting with 100 2018 trucks and business isn't as good, but all of a sudden you're running trucks that are 7 years old, your maintenance and repair costs have gone through the roof, and you figure, you know what? Let's get rid of these 100 trucks, buy 25 new ones with warranty, and we'll make money because now we only have to worry about 25 trucks. I don't know if that's happening, but that's when I looked between the lines, I thought that's probably what's happening.
Well, you have to remember a lot of these people got, we're still got some fallout from COVID right now.
Oh, yeah.
That people bought trucks, maybe not necessarily needed them, but were afraid of the shortage of trucks through COVID and paid way too much for high mileage trucks, and finance really, and this is again where the finance company really didn't do their due diligence. I don't think they financed these trucks that they wouldn't even normally finance, and now they finance trucks that were double the cost that they normally would be. And unfortunately, these guys now that have purchased them, or these people that have purchased them, are now finding they need maintenance. They may perhaps an overhaul, new engine, whatever the case may be, and don't have the funds to do it. And then, of course, want to trade them in or dispose of them, and of course, are upside down financially in them. So there's really no positive outcome for them.
No, and usually what I've seen happens is you get some overzealous salesmen, and they're underwater with this one. They take the underwater portion. So you have a 2018 Freightliner that a guy's been running team, and he's got a million. He's got 1 million miles on it, or so he's got over 1 million miles on it. And the thing is, it's still on the books. He still owes $175,000 on it because he bought it for $240 during the worst days of COVID. And they take what's owing and they put it on the new truck that they're going to buy. And that really makes no sense, because now you're paying for 2 trucks and you'll never get out of that one.
What did Warren Buffett once say? If you're in a hole, don't dig it deeper.
That's, you know what? That's really, really a great expression, but people do it, especially in this business.
Absolutely.
I've got a question. Oh, go ahead, Chuck. I'm sorry.
The smartest thing I ever heard somebody say was about the trucking industry. This guy that was in it that said one smart thing in his whole life. And he said, the trucking industry is the only industry in the world where people solve a problem by creating a new one. Rico, you had a question.
So I got to, before we jumped on, we were talking a little bit about cars, and I'm just curious, when it goes on the trucking, I'm going to try to connect a couple of dots here, and I'm curious as to how it may correlate with trucking. And Ray, I know that you guys haven't really been big about electric trucks. But in the car segment, when you're talking about just regular consumer cars, the manufacturers, I think, have learned a lesson that people are just really not buying these EVs. And I've seen some prices as far as some EVs have the depreciation hit that people are taking on that bought new EVs. And I think one example, I won't name them in particular, but one manufacturer had a new EV they were selling. I think sticker price on those things were approaching like 120, 130, and three years later the thing's lost 80% of the value. People are picking those things up in the $30,000, $40,000 range right now. Has any of that, how is that affecting, like, when the governments are pushing, we're trying to push, and then of course I think later on this year the tax credit is going away for EV as far as regular vehicles go here in the United States. How much of that are you seeing when it comes to the used trucks that are electrified or whatever? How is that whole thing kind of playing out, or do you have any information on that?
So, I think it's still relatively new, and the way the discount worked or the government grant worked kind of, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I don't want to say forces, but it encourages the companies to keep the trucks a certain amount of time the way it pays the grant out. Having said that, we do have a couple new electric vehicles on our lot for sale currently. Because they're still relatively new in the industry, I haven't taken any in on trade, and to be honest, I'm not really looking forward to that at this point. But I think, there's always a demand for the right, a couple of our I think the city of Toronto here has just put an order in for a few electric trucks, and they have a need for them. There's electric shunt trucks right now that people are, I think you guys might call them yard tractors. Yeah, I think there's another name for them as well. There's a few of those that I can tell you the drivers enjoy driving them immensely, and it makes perfect sense for those trucks because they are staying on the ground.
Right.
They are being, easy to plug in at where they are. They're not going anywhere but the yard. So they're quiet, they're smooth, they're quick, so I think everything has an application. And but as far as your ask whether I'm seeing the depreciation, I can tell you a friend of mine owns a Ford car dealership, and the Lightning, I might have referred to this to you before. Someone had purchased one for $117,000 and 6 months later wanted to trade it in, and was offered, not even by that dealer, but by somebody else, $60,000.
Whoa.
That's a big hit. And,
Huge.
So I don't know. I can't answer that question.
That kind of almost, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, it kind of correlates with you talking about people buying at the height of COVID when the truck prices, that's kind of a similar deal where you kind of really upside down in the vehicle, huh?
Well, I think, the electric vehicle, like we say, it serves a purpose for depending on the application. And there's a huge, cost savings to fuel, right? There is none.
Yeah, but that's one component, but you have a huge cost to take that thing out of service to charge it. And I personally, I think that if you can spare that truck for 12 hours a day, let's say, to charge it, because you only work 12 hours a day, it's fine. But if you could really use the truck for 20 or 24 hours, now all of a sudden that makes no sense. What do you think?
So it's funny, Chuck, when you and I started in the industry, and you before me, I have to say that, I think there was a lot more people utilizing their equipment 24 hours a day, 20 hours a day. Where now you and I drive down the road and I'll see 100 tractors or 50 tractors in somebody's yard and going, wow, how do they make money with these? Because they're parked half the day. And it just doesn't make any sense to me. And I'm surprised, that it's allowed. But it's sales, and everybody, it's the more sales, the better, I guess. But so I think the industry parks trucks a lot more than they did. And so the 12-hour parking or 8-hour parking to charge maybe isn't so bad. But, and again, we'll go back to the application that it's purchased for, right? That's what makes it different. So you've got very nominal parts costs with the EV. You have very nominal maintenance with the EV.
Yep.
You have the enjoyment of a quiet ride. You have the enjoyment of just plugging it in like your cell phone and walking away. And again, depending on the application, I mean, we have a straight truck that's electric, and I drove it around, and I got to tell you, I kind of liked it. It's pretty quick, and it's quiet, and it's smooth.
Yeah, I spent last weekend, I was in Long Beach, California, right down the road from the Long Beach container yard. And the booth, I was manning a booth for Next Gen Trucking. And they had some other local people from California join me at the booth. And they were people that operated trucks. And one guy was a tanker operator, another guy was dry freight, and two were from Toyota, their fleet. And all of them, because they're domiciled in California, everybody had electric trucks. And what they had to do is figure a use for those electric trucks, because they couldn't hold the weight that a diesel powered truck. So they all figured out, in order to comply with California green laws, where to stick electric trucks just to keep compliant.
Mm-hmm. And, off topic only, Rico, because you brought up the car thing. I was in beautiful Canmore, Alberta last week, and 4 of us rented electric bikes, and it was my first experience ever on electric pedal bike.
I still haven't ridden one of those.
Pardon me?
I still haven't rode one of those yet.
Awesome. Especially in the mountains and stuff. So my younger brother was on electric mode most of the time, and I'm trying to keep fit, and so I pedaled about 75. But going on, my better half said, I don't need an electric bike, and I said, honey, we're all getting them, and trust me, when we start climbing these mountains, you're gonna want one. And they have, I can't remember, it was 4 or 5 stages where if you push button 1, it helps you pedal. So you're still pedaling, but it just makes it a little easier.
Right.
And then 2 makes it a little, and you still had gear 1 to 8 as well. And then you have like a throttle, like a motorcycle, that you can just use electric and go 32 miles an hour, which was awesome. But I got to tell you, I am convinced I might buy one of those if I'm...
Well, you know what? A buddy of mine who's been an avid mountain biker for 25 years, he tried one and then immediately ordered 2 of them, one for him, one for his wife, and they haven't stopped riding them. And he thinks it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. He said, now I don't have to go up those big, nasty hills on my own. This is great.
Honestly, if I said to Denise, I'd like to go back out to Canmore, and Rico, if you've not been into Western Canada, I strongly urge you to go. It's absolutely gorgeous. And with your exchange rate, your money's worth more than ours. So it's a great time to experience Canada. But I said to Denise, I'd like to maybe go there for 3 weeks or a month next summer. And we'll probably, if we do that, then we'll buy a couple bikes rather than rent them. And because it's so lovely out there, and to be able to ride, and and I would just park my car, maybe not even bring a car out there for the 3 weeks, but it was gorgeous, fun to drive.
So I'm just curious, just circling back to the whole trucking thing, and you were saying that the government kind of made the grant to be divvied up over a period of time. Do you think that they actually thought it all the way through? Would it actually be a viable used electric truck market? I'm curious.
I'm not sure if I'm supposed to answer that.
Well, I don't want to get you in trouble. My mind is just over here turning right now, and I'm just kind of adding up things in my mind. I'm like, man, I don't know how viable that thing would be because I'm not sure, and I don't know anything about electric trucks as far as the battery life. How long of the battery? I know with most cars, most manufacturers are giving like a 10-year warranty. Some of them are giving a 10-year warranty. Some of them are a little bit less than that.
I can tell you my neighbor has an electric car, and he said he would buy another one. She said she would not. My neighbor on the other side bought one a year ago and can't wait to get rid of it. My son had one and sold it when he moved, but he swears by it. By the way, he just moved back home, Chuck.
Oh,
His mother has a electric car and likes it. I could not do anything other than the bike because it's not a main source. I get battery anxiety with my phone.
my world.
Yeah. So it's just not for me. Some people it's great. It's just not for me at this stage of my life. Was that politically enough?
I don't think that when it comes to consumer cars, I think that the government is really they were trying to really push this upon the public. And I don't think here in the West, I think there's maybe a bigger thing over in the East with Japan and those, societies like that, Japan, China, things of that nature. And I think they were trying to put us in a position to where we can compete when the time comes. But I don't think that here in this part of the world, I don't think that people are really on board or ready for that type of deal. And especially when it comes to, if we're just talking just regular cars, we're so indoctrinated to our cars having a soul, so to speak, and the electric car just kind of takes away from the whole experience of hearing the rumble of a V8.
Right?
Because I tell you, Stellantis changed directions really quickly. They are bringing back all of their the V8s. They were they were completely taking those completely off of the market, and the new CEO came in and he said that all that's coming back.
Well, I think that's compliments of Mr. Trump. That's because he's relaxed those rules, right? Which is not a bad thing, I don't think.
No, because I think people have to work in the automotive industry, and there's a lot of jobs. Like you look at the tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 suppliers, the amount of jobs that are at stake here. And the battery car, that diminishes an awful lot of those jobs.
Yeah, absolutely. Even at a dealership level, I mean, it in my mind, and I'm at the level I'm at because I'm probably not smart enough to go further, but that electric model is really contradictory to a whole dealership model.
Well, all you can sell are headlights, wiper blades, tail lights, and brakes. There's not a whole lot else to sell.
Have you seen the price of those headlights?
Well, they're not going to make it on volume,
Right?
Speaking of which, I don't know about the international, but I know one of your competitors, Freightliner, their new headlights. I've seen someone complain about that. The new headlight assembly for that thing, because all of it's integrated or whatever. Over just for the headlight alone, you can't buy the bulb. You have to buy the whole headlight, and I think it's north of $1,000 just for one headlight.
Yeah, it's true, and it is
$1,000 for a headlight.
Over $1,000 for a headlight.
No wonder you can't make any money in the trucking business.
It has got crazy. Being a used truck guy and formerly new, and I think if I can offer any advice to trucking companies when they trade, or individuals when they trade their truck in, clean it up.
Oh yeah.
You know, I had a couple come in the other day that were so bad. I mean, garbage. And I don't mean candy wrappers. I mean bags and bags of garbage, grease on the seats, grease, and they wonder why people like me are offering them a low trade value. And you know, Chuck, to your point, no wonder they're not making money. It doesn't cost money to keep a truck clean.
No.
And people are living in it, and I feel bad for the actual trucking company owners. Now, I deal with a couple that we regularly take their trades, and they get very good fair market value for their trades because I know every one of their trucks come in, it's well maintained, it's clean, it's looked after. I don't have to worry about selling it to my friends or other customers because they're just so clean inside. And I got to tell you, this one was so bad. It cost me just to clean the interior over $1,500.
Whoa.
It was that bad.
Wow. Why would you sell something you haven't cleaned, first of all? Secondly, what we noticed many years ago at Traffics, there was a correlation between how dirty a truck was on the inside. This is where a man or woman lives all the time, and their driving ability. And I found that people with really dirty trucks were more prone to accidents.
Yeah, I believe that. I mean, just the confusion in the truck. It is absolutely amazing. I think maybe what I'll do between myself and one of my guys over the next little while, we'll take pictures of the interior when we look at them as potential trades, and maybe one day, Rico and Chuck, with your permission, we could actually show them. We can actually on here to say this is what people have actually wanted money for, and we're complaining because I wouldn't put enough of money into it.
Well, it's no different than a house, gentlemen. If they tell you if you're going to sell your home, the most important thing is don't have it cluttered. Number one. Number two, throw a coat of paint on it. Make it look nice. You'll get more money. And in this market, if you're selling anything, the idea is to sell it. So you better take the effort to make it look nice.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm looking at the time, and we're coming up. I wanted to ask the question before we kind of touched on it a little bit, but I want to circle back around. So when it comes time for people that are here in the United States, is it still kind of walk us through smart buying process there, Ray? Is it still a viable for? Would you recommend for people that are here that are looking to maybe buy one or two trucks? Is it still viable to come up to Canada and take a look at the inventory there?
Yeah, I think what they have to look at, Rico, is where the truck was manufactured first and do their homework. Now, and I've said this on every show with you guys, if you have friends or customers that are looking to buy, absolutely, just because of the dollar value, the U.S. exchange is the U.S. dollar is much higher than the Canadian dollar. That alone gives you an advantage. But if your customers or your listeners want to know exactly what it would cost them, if they said, okay, I'm going to buy this truck, and they can tell me, and by looking at the first digit on the VIN number, the serial number, that will tell you where the truck was manufactured. So I don't need to know the whole VIN number, so they don't have to worry about me going around them or anything. If they told me the first digit, I can tell where it's manufactured. I can then do the research very quickly for them to tell them what tariffs or duties that they're going to be responsible for when it crosses the border to get to their state. I'm happy to do that. I'll do, and when I say happy to do that, there's no charge. I just want to help people. And so if your folks, listeners are interested, or your friends, by all means, you're welcome to give them my number and I can tell them. But to my knowledge, it's still very viable to buy in Canada and send it to the US or bring it to the US as you asked.
Well, I'm good. I'm glad to hear that, because I was just curious, when people, with all the stuff going around in the news, and when people don't have enough information, they may just assume that, okay, but because of the tariffs or whatever, it may be cost prohibitive.
Yeah, I think there's, it all adds up, right? So if the guy is, or the people are buying it from the US, if they got to look at the full package of costs. And one thing to remember is just driving it home costs money. If they're using a delivery company or a roading company or a transport company. So what they should look at is, where is the truck, the mileage to get it home. So a lot of times it's cheaper to fly your own driver in to pick it up.
Mhm.
And then just have someone do the border crossing paperwork for them.
Right.
But there's lots of options, Rico, and again with the exchange, and like I mentioned earlier, great place to visit. Canadian people are very friendly, and there's a lot of great sights to see. So it could be a paid holiday.
Indeed. Indeed. Take advantage of it.
You know what? Just if somebody bought like a 2015 truck, even where they wouldn't have a chance to avoid the duty, they're still going to save. And that if they had to pay the 25% duty, they're still saving 15%.
Yeah. Now you have to remember when they purchase a truck in Canada and bring it into the US, there's an FET charge as well. The federal excise tax, we don't pay for that. It's to the first retail user in the
Right.
US. So since we've brought them over here new, they've never been exposed to an FET.
Okay.
So that you are going to have to pay an FET, whoever the end user is, when it gets to the US. Again, whether they claim that or not, but it's something that's another fee that they'll have to. But if they're buying a truck in the US, a new truck, they're going to pay that anyway.
Right. That's 12%, isn't it? The FET.
Rico, you can answer that better. I can't remember.
I wouldn't. I don't have a clue because I've never bought I haven't. You know what, guys? I'm be approaching 50 this year. I've never owned a new car.
Well, I'm going to make you feel good, Rico. I just bought my first new vehicle in 39 years this year, and my wife's driving it. So I did buy new trucks for the company, but I have not bought a new personal vehicle since 1986, I think, was the last time.
I have. But I think, Rico, that's only based on the FET is only based on the current value. So if you're buying it, I'll just use that 2015 model that Chuck referenced. It's whatever the purchase price is, not what the original cost was. So, but it is still very beneficial to do that.
Okay, well, that's good to know. I mean, you never know. Like I say, and if you don't know, a lot of times people just assume, and you know what they say when you assume. So
yes,
glad we cleared that up.
But you know what? I honestly think that overall, I think the pricing up here in Canada, from what I've seen, is better on used trucks than it is in the US because things are hurting up here. I think they're hurting in general in business. Toronto or Canada did not have a strong manufacturing base to start with. There was some food product, there was office furniture, basically from one large manufacturer and a couple small ones, and there was, other than some cattle and stuff, but we'll put that under food products and grains and stuff, and automotive. Those are the three. And when the tariffs started and all this, a lot of that has slowed right down, and a lot of trucks are going empty. And if you remember last week, we were talking to our guest, Dean Croak, and he was saying that the rate from Toronto to Chicago was around $600 Canadian. Now, I was getting that rate almost 50 years ago when a brand new Kenworth, believe it or not, guys, was about $33,000.
Oh yeah. Well, like I said, and I want to be respectful of the time. We're getting close to that point, but I just want to reiterate for the people that are listening in, that are tuning in. Ray is, he's a good friend of the show. He's your friend in the truck buying business, and you be doing yourself a disservice not to reach out to Ray and ask him to, if you're in the market to buy a truck, if you're in the market to buy any used equipment, just to kind of pick his brain really quickly and find out if he may be, if it's a viable option. But I think you need to get out of the mindset of, and I think that people that are buying trucks maybe have a different mindset than people that may be buying cars. But sometimes your local truck dealer may not have the be competitive on price, and they may not have what it is that you're looking for. And so why not reach out to somebody that is in the business, that knows the business, that may be able to assist you in the buying process. Ray's helped out some people that I know personally, and definitely, is the man for the job. So with that being said, Ray, I know you didn't ask for a plug, but I'm giving you one. If you would, please let everybody know how they can find you and get in contact with you, just in case they might be in the market to kind of give you a call and see what you can do for them.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, by the way. And I haven't spoke to Eddie for a while. I'm going to have to reach out to him soon as well. But anybody, even if it's just for advice, by all means, give me a call. I'm happy to offer what I know. My personal email is ray@veeneman.ca. So you see the spelling on my name there, ray@veeneman.ca. And my cell number is area code 416-816-5239. And I'm happy to help anytime.
And you're great, Ray. And you know what? When in my working days, I bought countless used trucks from you and was never disappointed with one of them.
Well, that's good. They are mechanical. We try never to sell a bad truck, but stuff happens and we try to stand behind it.
Yeah, no, every truck we bought from you, and I understand that Traffic's, after I left, has bought more trucks from you. I think they got some with that A26 motor, which they really like. And I guess the next ones they buy will be that SB13. Before we go, any news on that SB13? Is that what it's called?
S13, yeah, the S13. So you know what? We've had a lot of positive feedback and surprisingly lots of orders coming in for the S13. Fuel consumption being a big part of it, and of course the emissions is another part, right? So that because it's so different, but positively different than existing engines, and they've done a great job of it. And we just did another information session on it for our customers and train our staff on it. International did. They've got a trailer going around being pulled by an S13, by the way.
Of course.
and they love it. And the driver of that truck in particular, I had a nice chat with the last time I was here last month. I think it was last month or the month before, and speaks very positively about it and confidently about it. So it is good. I mean, but the beauty is with International, you can also buy a Cummins engine too, right? If you feel more comfortable, you're not kind of pigeonholed into one engine. So you've got kind of the best of both worlds. So it's pretty nice.
Now, apparently with that S13, you are able to get parts readily. This is what I heard.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's a key to buying anything new, is you want that availability of parts. Now, excuse me. And I believe International has kind of a priority when a proprietary engine like that comes in, that you kind of get looked upon with a bit of a VIP service, if you will.
Right. Yeah, because they want to push that engine, which Correct. I've heard from people that have bought them through this show, that these things are phenomenal. Now, listen, they're just like any other engine. They'll have the odd sensor go, things happen, okay? But overall, they're beating the competition on performance, and they're certainly beating competition on fuel.
I think you had one of our guys on talking about International. I mean,
yeah, and I'd like to have him on again because he was great. He certainly, and I think this is the engine of the future. I think International may be the number one leader out there on the highway.
Fingers crossed.
Well, I think why they wouldn't be, because I think they're probably making the best product there is with that engine.
With that being said, we'll have to leave it there till the next time, gentlemen. I want to thank you guys, the listeners, for tuning in to the show. We greatly appreciate your time and attention. You could have been anywhere else in the world, but you took some time to hang out with us. Before we get out of here, Chuck, let the folks know how they can get in contact with you, and we'll get this baby parked.
Okay, well, if anybody needs me, just send me an email with your phone number to chucksnow280@outlook.com, and I will get right back to you as fast as I can with answers. And with no further ado, Rico, I'll let you back her in the hole for another week.
Well, there's nothing more from me, ladies and gentlemen. Stay safe out there, stay healthy, keep it in between the mustard and the mayonnaise, and we'll talk at your same time, same place, God willing, next week. God bless you and good night.
Catch you on the flip flop. God bless.
Thanks for